Welcome to the New Rainmaker Podcast, a weekly show for visionary founders and team members alike to come together and share the heartfelt, the cringe, and the radically honest truths about what it's really like to build and work for some of the world's most exposed brands on the biggest internet stages. I'm your host, Veronica Romney, and after working for some of the biggest names in the online space myself, I've learned that it takes both leadership and dream team collaboration to truly scale a company to its greatest potential. You can build a business alone, but you cannot scale it on your own. And my goal on today's episode and every episode is to inspire our dreamers and empower our leaders. Make sure to follow and share my podcast with your friends and colleagues, and feel free to tag me on Instagram at vromney with your insights and ahas. Now let's make it rain on today's episode. Before we get into this week's episode, I wanted to quickly share with you a very special, once-in-a-lifetime, never-before-offered opportunity for you, my beautiful online CEOs, founders, visionaries, and your entire marketing team to attend on April 26th and April 27th with me, Veronica Romney, the Dream Team Architect and OG Rainmaker herself. I'm going to be helping you transform your beautiful marketing team of doers who you care about and love into a dream team of strategic leaders who are confident making decisions in your absence and making it rain so you don't have to be the head of marketing for yourself anymore. It's going to be an incredible opportunity. It's going to be you and other teams who are doing really big things at a very similar stage of growth, who are all wanting and craving more efficiency, smoother processes, and a way for you guys to work together where everybody's working in their zone of genius. If this is something that you've been wanting, you know that there's more potential in the team that you have, you know that you're a part of the team that has the potential to do all the greatest things possible, but yet you're not 100% empowered to work in your zone of genius, you're going to want to pencil this in. April 26th and April 27th, join me for a very special marketing team VIP intensive you'll not want to miss. Now let's get back to today's episode. Okay, Rainmaker community, I'm super excited to have a very special guest on. This is a personal friend of mine, also a member of the Rainmaker residency. So I know this person very closely, and I've also been front row witness to her evolution as a CEO. And so I invited her to join the podcast to talk about something I don't think that we as CEOs, online entrepreneurs, talk about enough, to be honest. Having an identity shift from what you were to what you need to become to build a team, to scale and grow a business, to still be present with your family, requires you to let go. It requires some of the greatest trust falls that you can possibly ever do. I still, if I'm being honest, struggle with this. This is something that's not easy, especially when you care so passionately about what you've created and you have such high standards, which we never want to compromise your standards. So we're going to talk today to a very special person about what it took for her, and is still taking, this is evolution, right? Taking her to own her CEO identity, that queen bee-ness that she is. And so I'm really excited to bring Miss Paige Griffith to the Rainmaker podcast. Paige, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Veronica. I literally am so excited to be here and a tiny bit nervous. I don't know why. I was just telling you that I do podcasts all the time, but for some reason, talking to Veronica just heightened my blood pressure a little bit.
Oh, great. That's the effect I have on people. Only work with me if you want me to make you incredibly nervous and ask you life-piercing questions about your soul. No, just kidding. I'm a safe place. No, you and I have been, we've gone through, I've seen you in the highs and I've seen you in the lows. And I honestly, for me as a provider, I'm just grateful that you trust me and love me enough to include me in those moments, the highs and the lows, because it's a vulnerable place for you to be in, to be seen like that. And so, no, don't worry. It'll be a fantastic podcast. I won't ask anything too personal. Maybe what you ate for lunch, and that's about it. Okay.
No, I think the personal is really important. I mean, yeah. I'm not an open book per se to lots of people besides maybe my spouse and my mother. I try, I'm a pretty closed door policy type of person when it comes to how I am as a CEO and a mother and a friend and a person. And you are one of the only people in the industry that I've been able to open up to, a lot in part due to just the trajectory of what happened with the Rainmaker residency at the beginning of joining. Very unforeseen circumstances occurred, but it really has helped me. And that's the one thing I just want to tell people right off the bat is having Veronica on the other end of a Voxer in times of need helped my business exponentially. And I think she can attest to this too. I don't reach out to her all that often, but when I do, she's there and helps me immensely, especially because, as she said, I'm trying to shift this CEO identity in a business that has been exponentially growing for the past 4 to 5 years, in also kind of my late 20s, early 30s, becoming a mom, also having a personal identity crisis there. So yeah, lots of things. I can't wait to get into it.
Yeah, let's just dive right in. Why not? And if you've lived under a rock and you don't know who Paige is, I'll have her like very informally introduce herself. But just to give you words of affirmation, because that's very much my leadership style. I've seen you do hard things, and I've never seen you quit. And I've seen you persevere, and I've seen you have grit, and you're a valiant spirit, which is like one of my favorite words of all time. So like, I'm really excited to dive into this topic with you in particular, because it's not too often where we see really strong females be vulnerable or share hard things, and it needs to be said more often. So I'm just really excited. I'm just grateful for you to be on this podcast. So why don't you tell the good people who you are if they've never heard about you, which is ridiculous.
So my name is Paige Griffith. I am a lawyer and an educator and a former photographer. I live in Montana with my family and always been here, always loved Montana. I am not a transplant. I always like to say that. So I have a weird journey to get to where I am now and where I was a few years ago. So I did run a photography business for about 10 years here in Montana. During that time period, I was in law school, and then I worked as a federal clerk for a judge, all the time kind of building this entrepreneurship-ness of my personality that I didn't really realize I loved so much until I had to make that decision. Do I go to a law firm or do I pursue entrepreneurship? And long story short, I married the two passions into one, and I birthed the Legal Paige, which is my business, back in 2018. It seems like forever ago, but when you actually count, it's only about 6 years ago. And yeah, I was able to really find a need in the industry for good access to legal information and thorough, well-drafted contract templates specifically for the wedding industry, because that's the industry I was in for so long, went to conferences, went to workshops, like networked like crazy. And so that's where the Legal Paige started. I had a crazy first couple of years, and I know we'll get into that here, but since then we have become really one of the leading legal education platforms online. I have a YouTube, a podcast. We have blogs like crazy. I do education all the time on social media. And then we have our contract template shop. So yeah, now I have a team of about 8 to 10 people on any given day. Yeah. And this is what I do full time. So I did have to relinquish my photography as a business, and now I do just do it as a hobby. But that is me in a nutshell. I am the Legal Paige, Paige.
Literally.
So, literally my name is in the business.
Yeah, which I love. Yes, you are uber, without disclosing anything, you are uber successful at what you do. Every time I ever get like on a genie session with any of the Rainmaker members or just like anybody, when they start talking about affiliate marketing and they talk about podcasting and they talk about how to leverage other people's audience, I'm like, talk to Paige, queen. In a launch, how many podcast guest appearances do you average per launch? What was the last number?
Yeah, we have 2 big launches a year. They're really sales. Yeah. I always just tell people, I disclose that, launches are different for every business, but we treat it as a launch. It's not just like we're putting up a sale sign.
Oh, no, you do.
Yeah. And so last November, October, I probably did about, I think it was like 45.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what's it's crazy. I mean, you really show up for the people who show up for you, which is really awesome for me to watch, because you don't just ask people to like share the good news that is the Legal Paige, but you really show up for them and help them as well to advocate for you. And so you'll do these crazy blitzes. And so when people are like, oh, I think I'm just so busy, I'm like, go look at our calendar. But then what's nice is you're not launching all the time. You're not launch dependent, and you have this beautiful cabin in the woods that you're renovating, and you have this beautiful little baby who just, had a milestone on his birthday, and his husband and the family. And like, I look at you, and you work hard, but you play hard. And it's just a really great example of what you could have when saying and betting on yourself. It hasn't always been the case, certainly not for my own entrepreneurial journey. I've had many moments on my knees crying, like, what the hell did I do to myself? Why did I choose this path? This is the most high maintenance career I could have picked. Like, why? Why did I do this? But there's just, once you have the calling of the ocean, Moana, like, it is what it is. Like, it's just coming to you. When was like the first time where you were like, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am a CEO. Like, did you ever have, because they ask like NFL athletes, when was your NFL moment? Like when you realized that you made it to the NFL? I want to ask you kind of the same question. Like, when did you, by the way, none of this is scripted, so by all means, but like, when did you have that CEO moment where you're like, yeah, I am?
Yesterday. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. I'm just thinking through it as you are asking me this question. Mm-hmm. It was probably 2021, sometime in there.
Okay.
And that's just because 2020 happened to us very quickly. Obviously, the whole world really quickly. But for us, we went from 0 to 180 like so fast. And so that year in particular was just like trying to keep afloat and hiring a team in order to keep afloat. And 2020, by the end of 2021, I felt a little more settled as a CEO and was like, oh gosh, yeah, I've got some employees. I've got some contractors that have been with me for a few years. We've added a few more on. And so at that period of time, I was really shifting from doing everything in the business, the marketing, everything, HR, finance, being the lead attorney as well. And we were starting to really pick up speed in terms of, okay, where do we put people in what places in our business so that I don't have to hustle forever?
Yeah, it's, even just thinking about my own journey, it's like, did I have motherly attributes before I became officially a mother? Of course, as a female with female energy, of course, I'm going to have nurturing qualities or just different things that when you think of a mother, what does a mother mean to you? Insert whatever attribute that or quality that's resonating with you as you're listening. Did I have those attributes and characteristics 100% before I even like birthed a child and was given put a child on my chest, But you don't really have that, holy crap, I'm a mother and I'm responsible for your life. And not until that moment where like I'm responsible for the well-being and survival of someone else. I think that's probably very true of being a leader. Like, did Paige have leadership characteristics and attributes and qualities? 1000%. I know you. I know that you've always had these things inside of you, but there's nothing quite like having somebody actually report to you. You're responsible for their performance. You're responsible for their livelihood, which can be very overwhelming when you're like, oh no, like their family is depending on me. This business is still very much in its infancy stage as well. I don't know what's going to happen 6 months from now. Like there's a lot of feels when you become a leader very formally, very quickly, as opposed to just having those leadership attributes. No?
Yeah, 100%. I would like to think I've always had really good leadership qualities. I've been told that by some of my superiors, particularly the judge that I worked for. I know that was one of the things he talked about kind of when I was exiting working with him, because we did have people that directly reported to me. And that's kind of how you grow in that clerkship.
Yep.
And I did it, and I just look back at law school, college, high school. I think I always wanted to be a leader, loved leadership, wanted to build upon my mentorship abilities and skill sets. It is absolutely an evolution though. And it's something that you learn from your mistakes. And I just want people to know, like, don't drown in the failures, quote unquote, because you can only learn and grow from them and do better next time, or, try to mend the pieces and persevere through those things. Otherwise, my business wouldn't be what it is today, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today. So, yeah, I mean, it's really interesting that I said the end of 2021 because that's when I had my son. So I feel like maybe it was right before I had my son.
Yeah.
And I just knew that I needed to own being a CEO, and I needed to delegate, and I needed to let go and do a bunch of things. And I'm sure I was mentally prepping and doing all of this during my pregnancy, knowing that a massive life shift was coming. But I also really still loved being I knew I was going to be a working mom, and I loved work, and I loved entrepreneurship. So yeah, I mean, now that I'm thinking back to that time period, that's exactly what was going on.
Yeah, I again, when I talk to a lot of female CEOs who are also mothers, it's very interesting how much their leadership story has paralleled their mothering and motherhood story in so many ways. Because there's not that our team members are our children, but there is a very similar system at play, like the family system, also the work system with employer, employee versus also parental versus. So like there's a lot of parallels that happen and a lot of that joint responsibility that you feel on behalf of someone else. You brought up delegation, and I want to dive into this because heaven knows there's a shitload of books and podcasts and topics and master classes that are going to help you let go of the vine and delegate this. And okay, one thing is listening and reading and shaking head, aggressively, like, yeah. Another thing's doing it, like trust fall, letting go. Very difficult. Especially, and I'm going to bring up you in particular, especially when your company's name is actually your own name. Like it's the Legal Paige, damn it. Like if it's a failure, if it's a mistake, your name is literally on that, as opposed to hiding behind a brand or a team collective type of communication, especially when you start off as a solopreneur. Can we talk about whatever you feel comfortable disclosing, where have you wrestled with the pig of delegation? Like where have you wrestled? Where has it been messy for you?
Marketing.
Okay. I love it. Decisive.
Yeah, if you don't know this about me, I'm one of the most decisive people you'll ever meet. My entire family tells me that. All of my friends in the industry tell me that. I am such a decisive person. Like 90% of the time, that's a good thing, and we move forward. The 10% of the time that I actually need to like sit on things, speaking of, that's where my rainmaker comes in, and my team knows I need to be situation aware of those 10% so that I can like nudge Paige and tell her to like calm down. Don't be decisive on this one. We need to sit on the decision.
Sit.
So yeah, marketing in particular, I think it does attach to the fact that I am the face of the brand. I am the brand. I am also the attorney behind the brand. So
yes, ma'am.
I mean, one of the biggest decisions I ever made was bringing another attorney on board to my business. It's just two of us. I would love to grow beyond that, but it is a little bit hard because you have to find another attorney/lawyer. Well, we do have a third one in Canada, but she's a little bit more distant in terms of just reviewing our contracts and making them available for Canadian business owners, which we're really excited about and started up last year. But an attorney here in the US, it's complicated, right? Because attorneys like their autonomy. They have, it's like not a power struggle per se, but there is that kind of innate feeling for attorneys. And it was hard for me to find someone that was okay working with someone else that is probably always going to be the lead partner, so to speak, because my name is in the business. And so, and the face of the brand too, in terms of marketing, that honestly, Veronica, is what you and I have been working on so much. I don't have the option to not be the face of my marketing branch.
Correct.
But what can I delegate underneath that to the rest of my team? Because people want to see my face. They want to see my expertise. That is what built my business. And it's what I love to do. That is my queen bee role. And I could do it all day, every day. But balancing that aspect of marketing with, I mean, at the end of the day, I still 50% manage my team. I think I used to 80, so I'm getting down, which is great. But that's the hardest thing for me. And that was the hardest part of delegating, is just figuring out, what does that even mean?
Well, and it's an interesting process, because I have a couple thoughts here. Number one, every company, regardless if it's brand centric or personal brand centric, there are intentional and strategic choices for who gets to be the spokesperson for said company. So, like, for example, when I was doing a lot of marketing efforts, we would go to Yelp, like we knock at Yelp's door, like, hey, we would love to have a Yelp representative, or we'd have a Google or a Facebook representative, and they would have like a staff of these people that would travel on their behalf as a Yelp or Google or Facebook representatives to speak on stages, and like low key stages or conferences. It wasn't always like, it wasn't the CEO of Yelp or Google, but they had a strategic team that would go out and represent Yelp with like their pre-loaded answers. Then you have the Steve Jobs and the Elon Musk and these personalities where even when they like get their hand slapped, they don't want to be taken off the board. They don't want to be like retributed or taken away from the company, because it would immediately devalue their stock, which is like the equity of their personal brand as CEOs, even though it's brand centric. And then there's these personal brands like you, me, and that's super common in the online space, where people have an affection for us, like they like us or they want. So it goes both ways. Either they like us and want to be us, so they buy the social media course because I want to have a house or a car like that person who's selling the social media course, or they trust us, they know that we know our stuff, and so they want to work with us, not to be us, but because they want us to speak into their lives to have what they want. So like, but either way, it's still very personal brand centric, right? And you are one of the best. You're very, very, very good at like talking and communicating directly. It's like, you know the heart of your person. And so when you show up on social media, it's like you're talking directly to them. And so you don't want to distance yourself so far from the people, because then it dilutes the quality of your personal brand. At the same time, there's so much that goes into the marketing lane beyond just being the spokesperson. So what we have worked on so hard, and what we're still like carving away, is like, how do we just have you be Flo from Progressive? How do we just have you be the Chihuahua from Taco Bell before that got canceled? But like, how do we keep you in that queen bee function and let everybody else around you take what they can, that basically take everything that can't be taken? Like, they can't be the face, only you can be the face. So how do we protect you? How do we make sure that you have that content creator brilliance, that you're not fatigued to the point where you don't even want to show your face on camera? Like, those are really bad signals for us that we want to like correct very quickly, but that shit is hard. So do we want to talk about your Rainmaker journey? Do we want to talk about, because again, at whatever degree that you're comfortable, but I think it's fair for, it doesn't always happen the first time around.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about it. I have one additional thing as you were speaking that I just want to breathe a little bit extra into. So the two people that are just like coming to my mind are my Rainmaker, and we'll talk about that, and the journey and evolution of her being a part of TLP and what that has looked like. But also I want to go back to, okay, where was I at in 2021 and moving into 2022, and who were the two big people that I needed on my team in order to do exactly what we just talked about? I was doing everything, you guys. I was prepping all my podcasts. I am the only legal brain on my team that was able to do that. My team can only help so much. And I just realized there was this massive void. Like, I needed a clone of me that was okay being behind the curtain. And I just want to give a big shout out to, you know, the other attorney on my team. You know who you are, Alicia. I adore you. And she has really been able to take on a lot of that work for me and prep the legal things that I need to prep marketing wise, so that I can record as much and, you know, continue with the personality brand that we have. And then also, like, that's her role. Like, that's what we delegated. And we didn't want to expand beyond that. You know, she has very specific tasks that she does every day. She loves it. She's already worked in the legal world. Like, she understands the grunt work of litigation. And she was like, that's not for me. So I feel like we just found the person that meshed perfectly with our business in terms of having another attorney on board. And she's a full-time employee. So like, we're obsessed with her. And then then the journey of the Rainmaker began, because I didn't really even know I needed one. I was like, but I'm the Rainmaker. I've always made it rain on my business. So
yeah,
I had a really hard time letting go of a lot of what I had built and allowing someone else to do it for the company, because of, I'm a type AA person. Like, I'm probably super controlling. I try not to be in my business. I'm definitely in my household. It's fine. I mean, I take responsibility where it lies. But yeah, I mean, that for me, I feel so much better. And Veronica and I have waited to record this podcast episode because I needed to be at a place where I could talk about it. Yeah. And now in Q2 of 2023, I am ready to talk about it, because I feel like my mom always told me this, my parents instilled this in me, like everything happens for a reason. And it really, truly did. And we are where we need to be now as a team because of it.
Yeah, not to be Tony Robbins-esque, but Tony does always say, like, right, like life's not happening to you, it's happening for you. And then Adrienne Richardson, who we both have in common because she's also inside the Rainmaker residency program, and one of my personal best friends who didn't like me at first, which is always fun. Listen to that podcast if you want to. I didn't know. She's like, I was threatening to quit because of you. Like, what? Anyways, but she says, she's like, there's just no such thing as failures. It's only lessons. It's only lessons and learnings. There's never a thing such as failures. And I do believe that you have to clear out sometimes before you can actually like receive with open palms. But I think for female leaders in particular, the clearing out, at least for me, feels like a surgeon who lost a patient. And I take it very seriously. I take it probably too hard, too personal, too deeply, that it prohibits me from like going into the next surgery and doing another brilliant thing, you know, or helping another person. So like it can, and that's why when you went through the hard thing that you went through, like, man, this is where I show up probably the most with my empathy, having walked that road before more than most. And so like, not only can I guide you and like, okay, this is maybe tactically what we can do to like part ways as best as possible, but just know from an empathy standpoint, man, my heart goes out to you because I know exactly what this feels like and probably how you're beating yourself up about it.
Yeah. I mean, that's the Voxer I was talking about.
Yeah.
and yeah, Veronica just picked me up and was like, let's figure this out together. And I mean, to lean on someone in that specific situation is, I mean, there's no words to have that type of friendship in the industry, but also, I mean, again, right place, right time, right program that I was in. All of the things, Adrienne Richardson, Tony Robbins, you know, everybody that has
all the
a little phrase to this thing in life. If you don't embrace that and you think that life is happening to you versus for you, and you know, make lemonade out of lemons kind of thing, like how
Beyonce style.
Yeah, like how do you move forward in a, you know, continual trajectory that you've been working for your business? I mean, my thing is perseverance and bouncing back quickly. Like, for the rest of my team's sake, if I don't do that, the business will be impacted. And that's where you came in, and we can get into this. People are like, what are you talking about? We'll talk about it.
I know. We keep alluding to it.
We are alluding to it. But like, I mean, I had a week where honestly it was like 4 or 5 days, to be very frank, because then I went on vacation. It was kind of great timing. Yes. Again, life happened for me. And Veronica's like, take the time, grieve. And I think you did actually say like, take as long as you need. But my personality is like, I can't take that long because that's not how my brain works. And it's also not what my team needs. And so I was really thinking about the whole of the team at that time and how we were going to, this happened last December, so how we were going to move into the new year in a better place. And I didn't want them to see me like wallowing in sorrow for too long. And I just don't do that. Again, I know some people do. It takes them a little bit longer to get out of a rut or get out of something that impacted them. But I will say that business is just business and it's not personal. And I learned that the hard way in 2018, 2019. Those were hard years for me as a business owner. I didn't, one, know what I was doing. Two, I was definitely not a CEO. I was trying to be. And I had lessons learned with previous hires. And I take all of those lessons learned into the mentality that I have now for being a better CEO because of it. And then this thing happened and I was like, okay, here we go again, but I'm better at it this time. And I can persevere quicker this time. And last time it took me like a month of wallowing in sorrow, which is totally fine. Again, you will get better at this. But it's not personal. And Veronica, you know this with small teams, particularly women, it's intimate and it's a lot more difficult. And if I can impart any wisdom on to people that are listening before we dive into this, is one of the biggest lessons I learned from running a remote team, just so everybody knows, like 100% fully remote is my team. They do not live in the same town as me. They're all over the country. We are all women. We are all very driven women. And we're all in this, for the most part, like 20s and 30s stages of life. And so there's so much. And at the beginning of my entrepreneur journey, I showed too much personality and my raw self. That is important to show that, but doing too much can really affect empaths and people on your team who then take on too much of all of the stuff that you're throwing at them. And it negatively impacted my ability to be their boss. And it kind of put us on like a colleague playing field. And that just didn't work for our business and our remote team as women. And so I like to say, like, leave that for the masterminds that you're in, the therapist, your partner. Of course, show who you are and be your, own person and let people in, but don't let them too far in because they don't need to know everything. And you don't need to know everything about them as well. So I think the beauty too of remote work that we've all learned is you can really have a decent separation now between your personal and business life. And for me, it's non-negotiable. I have to separate those two in order to have good work-life integration. And I want that for my team. I don't want them to take on the messes of every other, personal messes of every other person on our team, or have that just impact the day-to-day operations of our business when people are bringing that in all of the time. And that's just what you learn over time and how you deal with it. So now we can get into kind of what we're talking about a little bit more, but those are some of my words of wisdom to people.
Well, there were some mic drops in there for sure, because my brain is like, whoa. I remember when I was a fractional chief of staff for some private clients. So now I'm getting a little bit vulnerable here. And I remember there was one situation where the team members, because I worked with the team members and I worked with the CEOs, like I very much kind of how the Rainmaker residency is set up too. But it was just one singular client in their business. And I remember it was a married couple. Well, the wife was the CEO, but the husband very much was a presence within the walls of the business, even though it was more her than him. But I remember that the team members would tell me, like, it's really awkward for us when they fight or they complain about one another to us. And I don't want to know about the fight they had last night because I remember sharing that with the CEO, who was the female in the relationship. And I was like, hey, this has been brought to my attention. Let's talk about how we can navigate this. It did not go over very well. Actually, it went over very poorly, very defensive, very quickly. And then I have Brene Brown in my head. It was like, vulnerability is leadership. Yeah. But I think what you articulated very well, and that's why I want to just like take a moment to like hang on that, is like there's layers of vulnerability, right? There's the vulnerability where it makes somebody uncomfortable and borderline HR inappropriate vulnerable, where it's like, whoa. There's also the vulnerability that is actually incredibly company culture defining. So for example, when a CEO says to their team, I don't have the answers, we're not hitting the sales that we need to hit. I'm super open to your ideas because I just got to be really honest with you. I can tell that I'm like all up in the jar of my feelings, and I don't want to have that blind us from the success that we can experience as a company. I would like to involve you in presenting ideas from the front lines that could help us see things that maybe I'm not seeing. Like to say, as a mother, as a leader, as a whatever, as anyone who's over other people, that I don't have all the answers and I don't want to have the pressure to have the answers. And can you help me? Can you help me is a really beautiful form of vulnerability and leadership that can penetrate and like permeate through the entire company culture. But then there's a level of vulnerability that's inappropriate, that if my team feels like I'm losing my mind, or they're worried for my marriage, or they're worried for my well-being, then it's an unhealthy dynamic very quickly, where employees feel like they have to be the employer. And that's never a good dynamic that cannot be sustained. So I get what you're saying. And I think it's worth mentioning, because finding that balance of vulnerability takes a hot second. It's not the easiest to navigate until you just read the room better. Like you just do. It comes with experience, to your point. Thank you for that. You said it really beautifully, and it was very well articulated. We'll be back with this interview, but first, I have to share something really exciting that I've never before offered, and it's going down on April 26th and April 27th, and you need to be in the room. You need to be in the room if you're a CEO who has a marketing team that could go so much further, and you know what they're capable of, but for whatever reason, we're a team of doers, but not yet the dream team that I know that we're capable of becoming. On April 26th and 27th, I'm going to be hosting a very special, never before offered marketing team VIP intensive for literally 70% off what I normally charge a VIP intensive. And that's where I'm going to help you and your team transform from doers into dreamers, a team of strategic leaders who are executing things in rhythm, smoothly, fast, in a way that all of you are just working in your zones of genius. All of you are feeling empowered to do your best work. And that's all going down on April 26th and 27th for a crazy price with some of the coolest people in the room. And I'm inviting you to be in there with your team. Join me April 26th and April 27th. Now let's get back to today's episode. Let's talk about, to whatever degree you feel comfortable, what happened, if you want to.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we had a kind of digital marketing manager on our team for a couple of years, and we initially, I'm comfortable like explaining the whole thing, because I think it's really important to understand this like weird trajectory of what you think is the right decision, and then you choose a different path, but then you actually go back to the path that was the initial right decision that you didn't really know was, until it all, came to be how it was meant to be. So my initial rainmaker that the company chose and myself chose, and Veronica helped me decide upon when I joined the Rainmaker residency, kind of in the middle of 2022, was our operations manager. And I was very excited about this. I think just like longevity wise and a lot of like strategy, but really it was the people management skills that put her above the rest of, this is the person that I want. I wanted someone in-house. I didn't want to bring on someone new. So we tried that. There was also a lot of personal things going on, to be very frank. And as Veronica says, she did just need to bow out, which was fine. It was a mutual decision. I totally understood where she was at. She was still our operations manager. Like everything was okay. Of course, I'm not going to beat around the bush. It saddened me. I was worried. I was quite confused on how I was going to move forward. But I think everything happens for a reason. And then, my digital marketing manager and I talked, and she was like, I want to do this. I can totally do this. Yeah. And like, please let me shine. And I was like, okay, And, in the back of my mind, I'm like, that's what was meant to be. And I truly at that time period was like, this is how the team is supposed to shake out. My operations manager is supposed to stay my operations manager and in that lane. And after doing the fortunes and all of the homework with Veronica, I was, enlightened to that lane that I didn't have in my business. And so I was really trying to do like, okay, marketing lane, this makes sense. Digital marketing manager moves up to Rainmaker. And then we have to kind of like trickle down and find other, marketing roles that can fill some of the like doer roles for her. And then same with operations lane. Then my operations manager stays over there and we find some assistant operations, positions down below. And everything was going fine for a few months. But long story short, my Rainmaker at the time, digital marketing manager turned, marketing director somewhat. But I will be very honest. I feel like at that time, this person hadn't stepped fully into the role. There was still a lot of learning going on. There was still a lot of like dynamics at play. And she became the Rainmaker right before one of our big launches. And so she had been with the company for so long, she kind of went back into doing what she has normally done for, the past couple of years and what she's comfortable with. And we ran the launch. And then she decided to step down and leave the company. And it was completely out of the blue and very, 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 very hard because I was like, oh my God, we could really talk here about my mental state at that time. But of course you blame yourself first as the CEO. Like what is wrong with me or what is going on? And it is my fault. What happened in the past 6 months that has made 2 people not work out for me? Again, wallowing in sorrow. That's like kind of what was going on at the time. Veronica really helped lift me up. Business is just business. It wasn't personal. And I had to flip that switch in my mind really quickly. There was something going on with this person personally that I couldn't assist with, and they needed a new home to better themselves, and it wasn't because of anything really TLP did for the most part. And I really, really had to move forward quickly because I didn't want it to impact my team at all. But it was a weird period of time because it was a super slow season for our business. We were not only like wrapping up a launch, but we were wrapping up the end of the year. And we also just take time off during launches. Like my business is very ebbs and flows. And so we have seasons of rest. And that's the season that we were in. And I was like, I can't be in this season right now. I wasn't able to do that. And so I rested for about, I had a vacation plan with my family. So I had about a week and that was beautiful. I was like, oh, everything happens for a reason. I'm supposed to go on vacation. Figured everything out, went on vacation, came back and just like hit the ground running. And I was like, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to come out better on the other side because of it. And we have, and that's why I'm recording this now. So the best news is my operations manager saw everything going down, was so invested in our team and was just like, I want to do this again. And I don't think I was in the right place at that time period, but I am now.
Yeah, when she self-elected
and she self-elected to come back. And it's been just this beautiful blossoming of a Rainmaker that has honestly never had a bunch of marketing experience, but she is a hell of a people manager and she is amazing at leadership. And she then now is starting to embrace all of this marketing side of her that she's had forever. And she's one of the best I've seen in the industry now. And 4 months later, my friends, we have hired almost an entirely new half of our team. She is helping our business flourish to like numbers we have never seen consistently every single month. And I have been able to take a massive step back in all of that management because of this. So I am so happy that it all shook out the way it was supposed to shake out. There was lots of hard periods. Don't get me wrong. And I'm still treading water a little bit carefully in certain respects because I don't want to rock the boat too much. But that is the gist of what went down.
Okay, can I tell you my perspective?
And now we're going to have the truth bomb of what really.
No. Because everything, yes, I was, like I said, I was front row to a lot of this, and it was an honor to be there, by the way, and to be given that seat at the table. But I just want to give you my perspective a lot on this as well, because it's interesting. So, because I know all the players involved. I've had opportunities to work or meet or whatever, all the different players involved. And I also want to share something that maybe people, if you're listening to this podcast, this happens a lot. And so I'm just going to normalize it right here, right now, because this is just to the point that business is business. This is the like the hardest reality that I can even communicate when you deeply care about the team. Is sometimes people stay with you for a season, and sometimes they stay with you for a reason, but sometimes they don't stay with you all the time. And that is so hard when the business outgrows certain individuals. And it's not because anyone did something wrong. Like, there's no villainization here. And this is what makes me sad. Sometimes when I see people break up in the work environment, it's always done. There's a feeling of bitterness or this or that. And it's like, no. Like, it's unrealistic to think that everybody's going to die on their gravestone saying, I was a member of this company for 40 years of my life. Like, it's not going to happen. Welcome to 2023. Like, that's just not the workforce of today. Like, we're staying in a company for a decade for pensions. Like, that just isn't the case. People stay with you for different lengths of time, but how you break up or how you say goodbye or how you close out a chapter is so important, because you can either look back at something with gratitude and affection. Like, if you were to bump in the street with somebody 6 months down the road, a year from now, or even 20 years from now, and you look back, you're like, remember that amazing thing that we did together when we were both in our 20s and our 30s? Like, holy hell, we didn't even know what we were doing. This is amazing. Like, I want you to look back at these moments, not with bitterness or sadness that it didn't work out for the long run, because I think that's just the wrong frame. It's like saying that a great mom doesn't work. I don't prescribe to that belief. I grew up with a working mom. I am a working mom. I think I'm a great mom. Like, there's just certain stories that we tell ourselves that really enable us or really disempower us. And so when people leave us, it is normal. It is absolutely completely normal that some people are meant for the next chapter and some people are not meant for the next chapter of the business's story and business growth. But it doesn't mean anybody was bad or that there's a villain to this narrative. And so, yes, when this person left after your record-breaking launch, it was a shock factor for sure, because it was on the backside of uber success and a lot of hard work and a lot of late nights. And instead of like celebrating as a team, there was some sadness that hung over the team, which I totally understand. But then at the same time, I do have this strong belief that some things get cleared out so that you're both in a place of more abundance. And so for her to receive or to find different experiences or different work partners and relationships that she can take everything she learned from the Legal Paige into her next journey is done with gratitude. And for you, it's not like she didn't pour and lay down the bricks of your yellow brick road. And for that, we're super grateful for. But I think it's also fascinating. So I'm going to bring this up. This happens more often than you would think inside the Rainmaker residency walls, where duos come in. And I'm asking two human beings, not one. I'm asking two people to embrace and accept a new identity. For a Rainmaker who was not formally a Rainmaker themselves, to accept that reality and that heavy mantle. For a CEO to go from, quite frankly, being their own CMO to a true founder and CEO, that's also to another identity. So you have two people in a work relationship that need to accept a new work identity to have it produce the fruit that you're hearing Paige speak of. And if you don't think that shit is hard, it's ridiculously hard. Like, we don't do easy work. We do hard work because we're working on humans. It's also some of the most gratifying work that you can do that will serve you and be with you the rest of your life. But make no mistake, you're asking two people to accept two new realities for themselves while simultaneously having babies and getting married and doing, there's on the personal side. So it's a lot for one person. We do it in the safety of our nest, but it's still a lot. And so when I look, and so your rainmaker today is Casey, who we love and we are obsessed with and all the things. And yes, when you first applied for the rainmaker residency, she was on the call with you. And it was like, and it was obvious to me. And so then when Casey self-elected out and saying, I don't think I can do this role and I don't want to disappoint Paige and I don't want to disappoint the company. And like, I think there was this fear of like, what if I'm not good enough? Oh no. And then to watch what played out with her substitute actually ended up empowering her to be like, no, I can do this. Like, I actually can do this. Yeah. And now look at her go, which often happens either inside of your business, which is what happened for you, or we also see other rainmakers see the example of other rainmakers in the program and go, oh, wait, all the stupid stories that I was telling myself that I can't be this rainmaker. And then I watch these other rainmakers who don't have 15 years of marketing pedigrees, who don't have this and this like me, and they're doing it and they're thriving. I can too. So like, there's so many things that are going on. So I just want to like compliment the hell out of you for being vulnerable and sharing this story, which is not it's the more messy side of running a team and building a team. But two, I just desperately want to normalize that, like, it's okay that certain people walk with you and tarry with you, I guess, for a certain period of time, but not for all the time. And that is normal and it is okay. And it doesn't mean that you're a crap boss and it doesn't mean that you are horrible and doesn't like, no. And the stories that they get to tell themselves about their experiences for them to own, and as it is for you to own. Oh, feels, all the feels, Paige.
Yeah, all the feels. The one thing that's ringing in the back of my mind right now is a podcast that Shelley Warren puts out. Mm-hmm. She's in Canada, actually, with Natalie Akdal, and it's called Stacking Your Team. I have listened to it, honestly, for everyone tuning in. I mean, if you're a podcast listener, just put it on your list. Since the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, and I had no idea that a lot of the different skills that she was kind of teaching me in the podcast would ring true today. But her slogan is, the team that got you here may not be the team that gets you there. And I always remind myself of that. And Veronica, I mean, you really put into perspective how you were seeing all of it. I'm not gonna lie, like it was hell at many points of the journey. But I love that you can always see things not only from the CEO's perspective, but you really just put into perspective where Casey was at in that journey.
Yep.
And that has been honestly priceless, being a part of the Rainmaker residency, because I don't necessarily have the ability to see that without a third party helping me navigate that. Because I am so consumed in all of the other things that are going on in my brain and my business and my personal life. And so that has helped us exponentially, because if Veronica wasn't able to like show me the other side of this and be like, well, this is probably what's going on, and like this is how it's going to empower her, and this is what I want you to do in this situation, or here's two different paths for you to take, like which one feels better for you, and here are what could potentially be impacted in terms of your rainmaker on those two different paths. Mm-hmm. I mean, that is, again, it's just priceless to have somebody that understands both of those sides, being the visionary and being the rainmaker. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I look back on all of this with very fond memories. I mean, everybody was in the position they were supposed to be in at that time. TLP wouldn't be what it was, going into this massive launch at the end of 2022 without both of those team members taking the bull by the horns in their lanes and doing a freaking fantastic job. But I think the hardest part of all of it was, and I'm kind of getting a little PTSD talking about it now. And I feel like I also compartmentalize my life. Like I hardcore can just shift from one thing to the other and not let emotions get to me, which is good and bad. But good and bad. Yep. Yeah, like at that point in time, we were dealing with this huge adrenaline going from the best launch ever to this like massive dopamine crash. And everybody know if you are a business owner who launches, you know what we're talking about. But take all of that in with the biggest launch we've ever had. It was so successful. We wanted to celebrate. I wanted to celebrate, but I feel like I got gut punched like 10 times. And I was trying to deal with this pain of being gut punched while also ensuring that the rest of my team could celebrate like the fruits of their labor. And that dynamic was rough. I did it with the help of Veronica. But I will say too, I think allowing my team time to process on their own and move forward the way that they felt best to move forward really helped, because I didn't just, me personally was like moving, like a hamster on a wheel as quick as I could again, because it wasn't a season of rest for me anymore. It was a season of hustle, but I did it really behind the scenes. I didn't let my team know a lot of the stuff that was going on. Of course, Casey had to step up pretty quickly. I gave her some time to make that decision, but within about 2 to 3 weeks, she made that decision. But then we had Christmas break, right? And I allowed her the space to be like, okay, I'm going to give you Q1. You've got 3 months and we're going to do this together. The team is, we've got your back. And I wasn't asking her to like make some miracle happen overnight. And it's still going on now, but to give her and delegate and just empower her and allow her an entire quarter to really make what she wanted this rainmaker position to be has been really beautiful to watch.
Oh. And this is like, if I could have 5,000 pages in my life, I have the perfect business, because this is when I even sought out to do a program like this. I'm like, will there actually be CEOs like me that care about their people as much as they care about their own success? I don't know. I know I'm really team centric. I just don't know. And then I come across people like Paige. Having people like Paige in my life, it's just like such a testament to the fact that there are really good heart-centric CEOs that do care about the people around them and care about the success of others, not just the success for themselves and their companies. And it just is like such a testament to me. And so if you're listening, whether you're a team member, like, are there CEOs out there that will care about my growth and success as much as they care about their own? The answer is a resounding yes. For CEOs who are listening to this podcast, is it hard? Is it important that you walk with people in your hardships so that like there's a safe place for you to vent, so that it is constructive and you can go back and be the leader that you need and are capable of being? Yes. Like it's just, I don't know. I just really want to thank Paige for being as vulnerable as she has been and sharing a story that is still, I mean, quite frankly, still fresh. I mean, we're only just a couple of months away from it, but just see how much that you've leaned into the discomfort and the resistance, and how much that you've empowered Casey to own it on her terms under your love and guidance is like, I mean, I could cry. Like, it's like my life's purpose is to have you guys come into my world, and I'm really thankful for it. And one day you and I will tell the story of how you came into my world and legally gave me some constructive feedback on my form. That's a different story for a different day. We'll do like an Instagram live. But I just want to thank Paige with all of my heart for getting on this podcast. She was, even before we pushed record, she's like, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, don't be nervous. But I really feel like that you being this forthright and this honest is going to empower so many people on both sides of teams to come together and see that there is beauty on the other side of that kind of hardship. And I just want to thank you profusely for doing that for us. So thank you, Paige.
Of course. Thank you for having me. This was a wonderful discussion. I really enjoyed it. It was good. It was therapeutic.
Good.
And I hope and I hope it was really helpful for everyone else, because leadership and management, it's no small feat. It's something that you have to work on every single day. And I love that I have bumps in the road, because like it's a journey. There's no destination here. And I want to be the best manager and boss. And, I want to garner respect, but I also want to, lead by example as well. And I think all of that just happens with time. You're right. You have to push through the hard, but you also have to know that there is beauty on the other side of, whatever that hardship is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you're such a great example of that. So I can't vouch for your legal templates more than I do. Like, you are very thorough. You are like the real deal. So it's the Legal Page, but it's more like the legit Legal Page. So like, where can people shop with you, buy contracts from you, work with you? Tell us.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't talk about anything legal on this podcast, which was kind of fun for me. Usually I'm just spewing legal stuff the entire podcast episode. So I am an attorney. Hi. And I am very experienced at business law and contract law and IP law. So thelegalpage.com is where you can find all of our legal education and contract templates. We have over 300 products for a variety of different business owners. So I promise you can find what you need there. And then the Legal Page on social media as well. And we also have a Facebook group if you want to come join and you're a small business owner and you kind of just want to like social listen, or if you have a question you need answered, my legal team and I are in there monitoring the Facebook group, and there's thousands of business owners in there. I think it's one of the best out there. So if you're interested in kind of learning more about who we are and what we do, those are the different places to find us.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks for listening to the Rainmaker Podcast. We believe you can't get real results or have real relationships that last without being real first. If you resonated with today's episode, leave us a review so we can keep serving up the truth and tips that help you become the empowered leader that I know that you are. And always head over to veronicarami.com to check out all the free resources I have for you and the show notes from this episode. Until next time, my friends.